Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to Hidden Horror. I'm here this afternoon to bring you a case update on the Jennifer Crumbley case. Jennifer Crumbley is the mother of the Oxford High School mass shooter Ethan Crumbley, and she has asked for a new trial or to have her case, her involuntary manslaughter conviction, dismissed, thrown out. And I want to just really preface it that I really wish that the James and Jennifer Crumbley cases would be complete, over. They've been convicted. It's been almost a year for both James Crumbley and Jennifer Crumbley. I wish they would go away, but they're not. They're going to take every legal route to get out of jail, to bring up all kind of issues. If it's prosecutorial misconduct, if it's ineffective counsel, if it's just the legal right to appeal, they're going to do everything they can not to spend their 10-year sentence behind bars. They want to get out. They want to be free. If they can say that they have a medical issue, if they can bring up COVID, anything they can to get out. They don't want to do this time. They want to go back, in which we all know we cannot go back. We cannot go back to the lives that we had 3+ years ago, 3.5 years ago. It's not going to change any of the facts that we have these deaths, these 4 students that are gone. It's not. But we still have to deal with it. We have to continue to fight for justice. And a part of that is ensuring that everyone is held accountable. So let's get to it. Let's talk about it. We're on the take right now, talking about Jennifer Crumbley. Okay, the article is coming from the DetroitNews.com. Is titled Oakland Circuit Judge Mostly Denies Jennifer Crumbley's Request for New Trial. It's by one of our favorite writers. We know Cheryl Berg because she's written a lot of the articles involving James Crumbley, Jennifer Crumbley, and Ethan Crumbley's prosecutions, their trials, and even after post-trial, these various motions to kind of get back into court, ask for their convictions to be overturned, for a new trial. We're going to keep seeing various tactics to try to get out of jail from all 3. But today we're talking about Jennifer Crumbley, okay? So let's get to it. Thank you, Ms. Carol Berg. An Oakland County judge has mostly denied a request from the Oxford High School shooter's mother to have her involuntary manslaughter case dismissed or to be granted a new trial, but will hear arguments Friday about if prosecutors should have given defense attorneys agreements they made with 2 school key witnesses. Let me share a picture of Mrs. Crumbley, because I'd like you to see who we're talking about, who we're focusing on. So let me enlarge this picture. Okay, that's Jennifer Crumbley there. In a written order issued Thursday, Judge Cheryl Mathews acknowledged the historic nature of the case against Jennifer Crumbley, but said even though her son was charged as an adult but was considered a minor child in the involuntary manslaughter case against her, that's allowed under Michigan law, and there were differing degrees of culpability. So let me just back this up. So about a year ago, Jennifer Crumbley, she was convicted amongst a jury of her peers. She's convicted of involuntary manslaughter. She received a sentence of 10 years. Okay. Now, fast forward, she's bringing up issues. She wants a new trial. She'd rather just have her case thrown out, but You have to have a basis for that, right? She was convicted by a jury, right? So that's not going to happen. But she's asking for a new trial. She's going to bring up all kind of issues now to say, well, this didn't happen, that wasn't received, all kind of reasons why. But in this particular instance, she wants to bring up agreements that she is alleging the defense attorneys, her attorneys, were not aware of between two school witnesses. So the judge is saying, hey, I'm not throwing your case out. I'm denying your request to throw your case out. I'm mostly denying your request for a new trial, but I am interested in what you're alleging about the two key school witnesses. So I do want information on that. So it's kind of still open. She hasn't made a complete determination yet, but at this time, she's saying that she wants to hear more about these key school witnesses. And if you want to watch the video of everything, you can. I'm going to just show you a brief, less than 3 minute video just to get to the point. But there was a hearing on the motion, and you can check that out online if you're interested in that. But let me continue. In a written order issued Thursday, Judge Cheryl Mathews acknowledged the historic nature of the case against Jennifer Crumbley, but said even though her son was charged as an adult, but was considered a minor child in the involuntary manslaughter case against her, that's allowed under Michigan law, and there were differing degrees of culpability. So what she's saying, when Ethan Crumbley is charged, he is a minor, but he's charged as an adult because of the acts, okay, because of the crimes. But in your prosecution, Jennifer Crumbley, as well as James Crumbley, your child is considered a minor. So everything that we're bringing up, we're referring to it as Ethan Crumbley as a minor because when he committed the mass shooting, he was 15 years old. He was your child. You have responsibility over your child. So when you're prosecuted, Ethan Crumbley is not seen as an adult in your prosecution. The culpability is different. He's seen as a child, and we're looking at your actions as a mother for your child. We're not treating him as an adult in your prosecution, but when we look at him in his prosecution, when we're prosecuting Ethan Crumbley, we're looking at him. Yes, he is a minor, but his actions, taking that gun, premeditating, planning, committing this mass shooting, we're trying him as an adult in his case. So there is different culpability in each case. And we're looking at the separate facts in your actions. How did you handle him? Were you negligent? Were you negligent in purchasing the gun? Were you negligent in buying him the ammunition? Are you negligent in not keeping these things, the weapon, the ammunition separated, locked? They're looking at your actions as it relates to your son, okay, which is separate in these three different prosecutions: the prosecution of James Crumbley, dad, the prosecution of Jennifer Crumbley, mom, and the prosecution of Ethan Crumbley, the shooter, killer, murderer, okay? Just so everybody's on the same page. Let's continue. The reality is that the shooter was treated as an adult for murder charges, but considered defendant's minor child for involuntary manslaughter charges. That's Judge Mathews. She wrote that, okay? Charging the shooter as an adult for first degree murder and charging the defendant with involuntary manslaughter, she's referring to Jennifer Crumbley specifically, reflect different degrees of culpability, and nothing about the shooter's culpability for his own acts exculpates the defendant for her own separate acts. So each person is responsible for their own actions. You're not relieved of your actions as a mom. Okay, no. Let's continue. She denied most of Crumbley's claims in her request for a new trial or an acquittal and will likely make a final decision on the motion Friday. So it's usually highly unlikely that a judge will overturn the jury's decision. She was, and when I say she, I'm referring to Jennifer Crumbley, she was convicted by a jury of her peers, and it's usually unlikely for a judge to then step in and overturn that. But that's what Jennifer Crumbley was asking for. Okay, let's continue. An Oakland County jury convicted Crumbley of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in February last year, making the first time in the United States a parent was convicted with manslaughter for a mass shooting carried out by his or her child. Mathews sentenced her to 10 to 15 years in prison. A separate jury also convicted her husband, James Crumbley. Now, they both were sentenced 10 to 15 years. Um, they both were convicted in individual trials. When I say both, I'm referring to Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley, mom and dad, both convicted by juries in separate trials, okay? Both sentenced 10 to 15 years, and this was the max that they could receive for the involuntary manslaughter charges, okay? Let's continue. But Michael Desi, Crumbley's appellate attorney, argued in early December that the guilty verdict should be thrown out and his client should be given a new trial because of ineffective trial counsel. Agreements prosecutors made with 2 key witnesses from Oxford schools that weren't shared with her attorney and raised questions about their credibility and that she owed no legal duty to the victims of her son's acts. Now, this will get me upset. That she held no legal duty to the victims of her son's acts. This is where, you know, I can become impassioned a little bit. Because I can recount those victim impact statements. Tate Mears' dad, Justin Schilling. When you say that you have no legal duty to those victims, your legal duty was for you as a mom, as a parent, as an adult, as someone that has the forethought to think safety, protection, to not provide your son who's suffering with all of these mental challenges, a gun, a weapon that could cause mass harm to others, not just himself, but to the faculty, for the staff, for the administrators, for the teachers, for security, for janitorial, for all the people there, for the community, for other parents and students, for his peers, and you feel you don't have any legal responsibility to these victims, it's very upsetting. It's very sad. It's almost arrogant in a way, you know, and it definitely impacts me because I am a parent volunteer. I've been fighting for years for students, for underserved communities, for people that just want to be educated, want to have opportunities, want resources, want to be acknowledged, want to receive scholarships, want to have the best chance to succeed in diverse places sometimes. And when you hear and read things like that, it's very disturbing because no one is sending their child to school with this in their mind, in their heart, that this would happen to their child. No teacher takes on a classroom with varying abilities, sometimes low resources, sometimes you have so many challenges. Teachers trying to reach individual kids and they're coming to school. Sometimes their heart is hardened. Sometimes they have mental issues. Sometimes their struggle could be not having food at home. It's the last thing you think as an educator that you're going to come with to work, ready to work. And the education piece is just part of it. It's a humanity piece. It's a access piece. It's reaching out to others where they are. And that can be hard sometimes. It can be challenging. It's not easy. It's not going to always be simple. You have to format education to meet all of the needs of every student individually, but as a whole. And you have to have patience, you have to have care, you have to have love, you have to have insight, and you almost have to influence the kids to want to come together for the purpose of learning. And that's hard sometimes. You're going to have tough days. But in we have these excellent, exceptional educators out there, administrators that see the needs of the students, they see the struggles of the parents, and between teachers, administrators, other staff, nutritional staff, janitors, they all come together. The principals, the assistant principals, the counselors come together with the parents, working in tandem for the goal of each student succeeding at their level with their best ability. And when you read stuff like there's no legal commitment, you're not responsible. I'm never going to buy into that idea. I'm not. It takes all of us to contribute, to work towards. You stand in places, you do the work. It's very, very sad. Very, very disturbing. Let's continue. Mathews shall hear arguments Friday on whether Crumbley is entitled to an acquittal or a new trial based on the alleged discovery violations by prosecutors for not giving defense attorneys copies of so-called proffer agreements they made with Oxford High School counselor Sean Hopkins and former dean of students Nick Jack. Both met with Ethan Crumbley and his parents the morning of the 2021 shooting. She declined to hear arguments on all other aspects of Crumbley's appeal and ruled against them. And that's also why I'm not going to show you the video. It's over an hour. A lot of it doesn't really pertain to the true argument, which is, I want a new trial. I want um, my conviction overturned by the jury, and I want a new trial because these two alleged proffer agreements were out there and I wasn't aware. I don't think it matters. I just don't think they had that impact, but that's my opinion, okay? The judge will render her own decision. But let's continue. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald allowed Jack and Hopkins to sign the agreements, which noted that she would consider the statements made by them during meetings with prosecutors in deciding how to resolve this investigation as it relates to your client and any charges pending against your client being prosecuted by this office. Prosecutors never gave the proffer agreements to Crumbley's defense attorney, Shannon Smith, Desi wrote. The news of the agreements came out less than a week after Jennifer's husband, James Crumbley, was convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. The day after James Crumbley was convicted, McDonald said she would not charge any Oxford school officials with crimes related to the shooting. Less than a week later, news of the proffer agreements came to light. 4 students were killed in November 2021 shooting. Hannah St. Juliana, age 14. Justin Schilling, age 17. Tate Meir, age 16. And Madison Baldwin, age 16. Prosecutors said Crumbley acted in a grossly negligent way in storing a gun and ammunition where her son could access it, and that she failed to control her child to keep him from harming others. Desi Crumbley's attorney has argued the proffer agreements could have been used to better cross-examine Hopkins and Jack and would have allowed Smith to point out to the jury that they had motive, bias, and personal interest in helping prosecutors convict Crumbley. And if the jury had been aware of them, they could have used them to weigh the credibility of Hopkins and Jack, he wrote. If anybody watched that trial of Jennifer Crumbley, they had more than enough negligence. And I'm not talking about the alleged affair. I'm talking about the text messages. I'm talking about leaving him alone. I'm talking about when he asked for the help, the therapy, the counseling. Allegedly, Jennifer Crumbley laughed in his face. I'm talking about the day of the mass shooting when James and Jennifer Crumbley both appeared at the meeting at the school shortly before the mass shooting. They refused to take him home, and they refused to tell the school. They failed to tell the school they purchased him a gun. They didn't tell the school they purchased Ethan a gun. Okay? So, no. But let's continue. These witnesses were in the proverbial hot seat, hoping to avoid criminal prosecution for their acts and omissions related to the shooting, Desi wrote. Prosecutors have maintained that they had no duty to share the proffer agreements because they did not make any promises of immunity, which Desi said was an erroneous conclusion. In a press release March 20th, 2024, the prosecutor's office wrote there was never an implicit or explicit promise of immunity, leniency, or favoritism of any kind. No witnesses were given anything for their testimony, and there was no immunity. These witnesses testified without any promises or protection whatsoever. The Michigan Court of Appeals has already reviewed the legal issues raised by Jennifer Crumbley and rejected them, said Chief Assistant Prosecutor David Williams in a statement in December. Williams said March 20th that the only purpose of the agreement is to allow the witness to have an initial meeting with the prosecution without fear that their statements in that meeting will be used to criminally charge them. Jack and Hopkins testified under oath without any promises or protection, Williams said. As far as Desi's other arguments, Mathews said the law in Michigan does allow for prosecutors to call the shooter a child for his parents' trial and charge him as an adult at the same time, despite Desi's arguments that prosecutors could not argue both theories. Mathews also declined to hear arguments on Crumbley's argument that she owed no legal duty to the victims of the shooting, noting that she believes the law says Crumbley's did have to use ordinary care to avoid injury to someone. Her duty existed alongside the duty of the school officials to protect Oxford students, Mathews wrote. Mathews also found Crumbley failed to show that her trial attorney was ineffective. Mathews' Thursday order does not mention a supplemental request for Crumbley to be released from prison while the appeals in her case are pending. So I want to share just a brief video. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I want to share a brief video that pretty much says all this under 3 minutes. The video is by CBS News Detroit. It's titled Oakland County Judge Largely Denies Jennifer Crumbley's Request for a New Trial. Let's listen to this information.
We begin with Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of the Oxford High School shooter, fighting for a new trial. Her attorney presented a number of potential issues that he says warrant a new trial. The judge dismissed most of them last night, but she allowed arguments on one of them related to potential discovery violations regarding the disclosure of pre-trial agreements. Those agreements were made between the prosecutor's office and 2 school employees who talked to the Crumbleys the morning of the shooting. The defense believes the prosecution was gaslighting them.
$1 million budget put up against a couple from the community with very little resources to defend themselves. It wasn't an equal playing field from the start.
Jennifer Crumbley was convicted based on the evidence. It was her actions that caused the death of Hannah, Tate, Justin, and Madison. Any attempt to say anything else is just a distraction, and I'm not going to take the bait.
The judge did not make a decision yet if Crumbley will get a new trial or have her conviction thrown out. She also didn't say when that decision would be made. We now turn to CBS News Detroit's Elle Myers with more on what's factoring into that decision.
Jennifer Crumbley is asking an Oakland County judge for one of two options: acquittal or retrial. Judge Cheryl Mathews heard about 90 minutes of arguments from the defense and prosecution. The defense argued that Jennifer Crumbley's guilty verdict hinges on the testimony of two school employees.
The point I'm making is the prosecution has gone to great lengths to, in my opinion, gaslight us to tell us this isn't immunity.
At issue are proffer agreements that these two school employees signed. The agreements are essentially binding contracts between a prosecutor and a witness that says the testimony they provide can't be used against them later on. Claims the judge didn't seem inclined to believe.
You're telling me that if all that happened in the meeting was not presented to the jury, your client wouldn't have been convicted. That's what you're telling me. And I think that's a big leap.
The prosecution denied the claims brought up by the defense and maintained that Jennifer Crumbley didn't take even the most basic steps to ensure her son didn't have access to the gun.
Jennifer Crumbley's own actions caused the death of those 4 kids and injured others and terrorized hundreds of others. And any attempt to say anything else is offensive, and it's not right, and I'm not taking the bait.
I reached out to the Attorney General's office for comment on the request for retrial or an acquittal, but we've not heard back. Now, Judge Mathews is expected to hand down her decision in writing, but for the moment, we don't know when that decision will be announced. For now, reporting in Oakland County, I'm Elle Myers, CBS News, Detroit.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring you that update. Hopefully this does not go anywhere, that there will not be a new trial, that we can move forward, and they can spend their time in jail. I really don't have much of an opinion. My thoughts are always going to go with the victims, their families, the school district, the administrators, the teachers. I'm not thinking about James Crumbley or Jennifer Crumbley. I do think about Ethan Crumbley because he's just he's got a birthday coming up. He'll be turning 19, and you know, these decisions, no one forecast out how long, how much time. You know, he destroyed their lives, but he also destroyed his own life. So it's very unfortunate, very sad situation. So thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to please stay smart, stay safe, stay savvy, be well, all my friends. Bye, everybody.